Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. And on today's episode, we have with us Tony Bodoh. Tony is a world-famous guest. He has a great wealth of experience. And just to give you a few lines on his experience, because I'm going to give him the opportunity to share with you about himself. So Tony learned at an early age the power of listening and letting people know they've been heard. He started a lawn care business at 11 years old, while his friends had one or two lawns to cut. Tony kept very busy all summer long with 16 clients, including the local post office and postmaster's lawn. He learned that while quality lawn care mattered, most people just wanted to connect and be acknowledged for who they are. So today, Tony is a #1 best-selling author, and he's the founder and co-founder of 5 companies ranging from customer experience consulting to small business training to television. He easily navigates the international stage, speaking at both personal growth seminars as well as the uber nerdy technology conferences. Tony writes his business blogs, personal growth essays, and children's stories. While he now coaches executives, he has taught high school for 1 year and in the business department of Aquinas College in Nashville, Tennessee for 7 years. As a passionate believer in the power and possibility that is contained in each moment of human experience to alter the course of history, Tony financially supports the building of sustainable villages in Africa and Haiti. So without any further delay, welcome Tony to our podcast, Navigating the Customer Experience.
Thank you very much, Unique.
I would like to start out with you just sharing with our listeners a little bit about yourself. I know I read a wealth of information a while ago, but it's so good to hear from people. Again, getting back to that human experience, where people get to hear from the person what they are and who they are. And, just tell us a little bit about your journey and what has made you take in the paths that you've taken in your life.
Absolutely. Well, I grew up in Wisconsin, central Wisconsin, which is in the middle of nowhere, and it's as far north as you can go pretty much in the U.S. And it was cold, and it was a place where you didn't really get exposure to the outside world. And as I grew up there, it was a very interesting environment, because once I went away to college, I went to Virginia, and I began to see this whole new world that existed out there that I didn't know about before. And that really led me to start, asking questions and really looking deeper into what I wanted to do with my life. And that I got a liberal arts degree because that was, kind of the path I was on at the point in time when I left home. And very quickly realized, I wanted to run a business. I wanted to run multiple businesses. And so eventually went back and got my MBA. I worked several corporate jobs for large companies, and I built analytical systems for them. So the business intelligence, the CRM systems. And in that journey of building those systems, I really learned a lot of things I could do to look at data and understand behavior from data. And I was really passionate about that. And then in 2007, my vice president at the time, he announced in a meeting that he wanted me to take over the customer experience world, and or the customer experience world for this company that I worked for as a hospitality company, and really to take on the surveys and understanding what the guests were saying, what the meeting planners were saying. And I was quite frightened by the prospect, because at this point in time, I had really focused on hard numbers, on operational improvement, operations excellence, Lean and Six Sigma, all of those statistically oriented ways of managing things. And I thought psychology was kind of a very soft topic, not something that I would really want to get into. And but I took it on and wanted to learn and grow. So I began to learn, and within a year, we'd actually, based on the experience I had in the technology and in building analytical systems, we brought in a vendor that did text mining, and we began to mine the data in our feedback rather than just reading the surveys ourselves. And we were able to build one of the first and probably the most significant at the time data mining operations around customer feedback. And it went from 2007 through 2009 as I was running that part of the organization, setting records in that right during the economic downturn in the U.S. And at that point in time, we continued to have stellar results in our customer experience and set records every quarter for the brand. And it was going very well, and I decided at that point, it was time for me to go on and do something else. I had, done a lot in corporate and really loved what I was doing, but I also felt this calling reemerging after being in this corporate life for so long that it was time for me to go on and do my own thing. So I started a consulting company focused on customer experience, and have built that up over the last 7 years now. And in the process, there's been some natural growth in other businesses that I've started as well with other people, and really now spread across everything from the customer experience consulting where I started to small business training and consulting to television. And we're building some businesses in the television industry right now.
Very cool. Wow. So your experience spans not just online, face to face, and now you're going into media.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So as a customer service consultant yourself, you explained that you had been in the background of customer experience with your previous company, and then you started a business that offers customer experience consulting. What do you think are some of give me 3 top challenges that you think people face, why it is that their customer experience is not consistent in their businesses?
That's a great question. I think the first thing is that it's the human connection. It's that shared connection. And what we find over and over again is that the shared experience that people have, an employee has with a customer or a leader has with an employee, that shared experience is really what drives the value for the customer. So we talk a lot about the customer side, but it really starts with the leader and the employee and the engagement that they have with one another and how they're connecting. And when I talk about a shared experience, is do they really empathize? Do they really understand what the other person is feeling? And when there's a disconnect there's a disconnect in the entire value stream for the customer. And if the employee's not connected with the leader or not connected with the mission of the organization, not connected with the products or services that they offer, they can't support the customer effectively because they're not understanding the value that they're there to bring to the table. The value is not created in the product itself or in the service itself. It's created in the mind of the customer when they believe that this is the solution to the problem they're having. And so if there's any disconnect on the employee side, it's really hard to have a consistent experience on the customer side. So I would say that shared experience, that connection with the value that's being created is number one. Mm-hmm. I think the second place really to look is the ability to listen. Oftentimes, because we get so caught up in what's going on in our own lives, our mind is distracted. Maybe an employee comes to work today and they've got a challenge at home. And so that distraction at home, they're not playing at the top of their game, and so they're not able to connect in the same way. And everything that we hear from another person is really through the filter of our own mind. And so I've worked with salespeople, and salespeople are if they're having a financial challenge at home, often that translates into what they're doing at the office. And so they can't express the value because they start to think everyone else is having financial challenges as well. Mm-hmm. Any objection becomes, oh, they don't have the money for this. And their sales start dropping off because, again, they're not connecting with where the customer's at. They're connecting with where they're coming from.
That's a very good point.
I would say a third one would be where you have products that people just don't believe in. If I don't believe in what I'm selling, if I don't believe in the problem that you have and that I can actually solve that, then that's a huge disconnect as well. So I focus a lot on the connectivity, as you can hear, but it comes across in many different ways. And if you don't believe in the product you're offering, then you don't have the confidence to speak boldly. You don't have the confidence to be unreasonable with the customer. And I mean that in a good way. In other words, the customer's got their paradigms. The customer is saying they're in a fixed mindset. I have never bought this before. Why would I need this? Is this really going to solve my problem? All of this is what's going through their mind. Mm-hmm. And you have to be unreasonable because you have to break them through that paradigm. You've got to help them understand that this is an amazing product, this is amazing service. Or if you've got a customer who has a challenge and they believe you're going to be like everyone else, right? It's like when you call a cable company today. They're going to be like everyone else. They're not going to answer my questions. They're going to read me the policy. They're going to pass me off to someone else. You want to be unreasonable and you want to do everything you can to help that person, help the customer. And so if you're not unreasonable in your commitment to the product and the service you're offering and your commitment to solve a problem, you're not going to have a consistent experience over time.
That is true. I like the third point where you said they don't believe in the product or service. Like, one of the things I do when I go out to buy stuff is, if I'm buying something that I've never bought before, I would usually ask the salesperson, so do you use this product? Do you have one of your
Yep.
Do you have one of your own? And usually when they say no, I don't, I say to them, so then why should I buy it? Because I'm a firm believer, if you work at an organization and you're not even supporting your organization's products and services, then there must be some reason there, I believe. And it can't be purely financial, that maybe the price point's too high, because I'm sure the company wants you to engage with their products. If the more you experience it, the better you'll be able to explain it to the customer, right?
Absolutely. And it's funny because one of the things that we do when we work with clients is we ask the leadership, how much have you allowed your people to experience the product or service you offer? And in one case, we had a hotel company that they hadn't done it. And we had 120 people that were in the training, and only 2 or 3 people had actually experienced these upgraded rooms that the hotel had. They were $40 or $50 more per night. And they couldn't figure out why, the leadership couldn't figure out why they weren't selling them. And so I took the team that was in training through an imaginary exercise for about 5 minutes. I had them imagine what it would be like to stay in that room. And I had them then turn to a partner and describe for about 5 minutes what it was like in the imaginary vacation or the imaginary business trip they had been on and what happened for them while they were in that room. And what was fascinating, because the mind does not know the difference between reality and imagination. The following week, they sold 400% more upgraded rooms than they had ever sold before.
Wow.
It's all about, if you make that connection, that integrity and authenticity. And they had it because they imaginally went into the state of what it was like. So when they spoke to the other person, that kind of residual memory that was in the cells, how they felt in that practice exercise just came through, and they looked authentic and genuine. Even though they had not really had the experience, they really did have an experience in their imagination.
Mm-hmm. So if you were doing the workshop and the participants weren't able to replicate that imaginary feeling or stage that you're trying to create for them. Let's say they put up a block and they say, I can't imagine what it would be like to stay in a room like that. I won't be able to give you any description. How do you counter that? Because then they're still then at a block in being able to explain to the customer why they should purchase this upgraded room.
That's another great question. What I do then is I take them through, I call it the best day ever. And it's a very similar exercise, but I have them go back in their memory. So if we're working with a hotel company, I would say, what was the best hotel experience you've ever had? And I have them reflect upon that and think about that and really concentrate on what did they hear, what did they see, what did they smell, what did they feel, what were people saying around them. And I have them just fully sensorize that experience and remember it again. And once I feel like they're at that peak of experience, I have them turn to a partner and tell them about that experience, because again, what has happened is as they've remembered it, their body goes into the same chemical state and the same emotional state. So they now are back in that state of being. And I've done this with salespeople, and I tell them, okay, now that you have that experience, you remember what that feels like before you get on the next sales call, before you next talk to your next prospect. Bring that feeling to mind, bring that into your body and let your body feel that, and then get on the call. And what ends up happening is I've had people say in 3 hours they sold more than they've ever sold before, because they moved their body to the state that their mind was at when they had their best day ever, because that was kind of an accident for them the first time.
Right.
Now they bring themselves back, and then the body fires the emotion about a half second before the brain can kick in and logically think. So if you control your emotion, you control your logic. If you don't control your emotion, the logic is just going to flow.
That's why people who get upset when they don't control their emotions, things come out that they're not supposed to come out, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Wow. I'm learning a lot just listening to you. This is awesome. So tell us now, what are some everyday solutions that you believe can help improve customer experience on a global level?
Well, I think we've touched on a couple of them. One is I think that people need to experience the product that they're working with, the company that they're working for, needs to be willing to invest in their people. Depending on which study you read, anywhere from 50% to upwards of 85% of a customer's experience is based on the connection they make with the person. And we've even taken that further. We look at online reviews a lot of times, and I wrote a book earlier this year that became a #1 bestseller in retail and hospitality, because what we found over and over again is that when people have a top experience, they specifically mention an individual's name that helped them or a department. They may say like the wait staff or the front desk as an example. They may say the clerk at the retail desk. And the reason they're doing that is because they feel like they've connected. So the best thing to do is really to recognize that connection is #1, and you've got to hire the right people. You've got to hire people who know how to connect, and then you've got to train them up from there. So you want to keep that skill set growing and growing. You want to keep finding ways for them to learn how to connect with ever more challenging people, with people in different scenarios, or even if they're having a bad day, if the employee's having a bad day, how do they build up their emotional ability to connect even when that day isn't what they want it to be? How do they take control? So a lot of times going through mindset training or emotional resilience training, we have partners that we work with to do this. How do you help the employees constantly up-level their ability to control their emotions and to control their thinking? That's probably the biggest thing any company can do right there. And once they do that, then they step back and they look at, what does the customer need from us? And a lot of times we get into journey mapping and the customer's journey and what are they saying. In reality, that's an outcome. That's a symptom of what's happening. So you can look at that and you can understand, here's where they're having problems, on the journey that they're going through, or here's what's happening as they're using our product or service. But the reality is you've got to look at what's the mindset that the employee had, whether it was the designer of the product or whether it was the person, servicing the customer at that point in time. And so it really everything comes back to mindset. If you take the chair that you're sitting in right now, or the device you're listening to this podcast on right now, all of that was all imaginary at one point in time. Someone believed that they could create something that a customer would enjoy. And they went through this imaginary process of figuring out what it was and then building it and testing it and building it and testing it. But all of that came down to the mindset of believing what's possible and trying to come up with a new way to differentiate that. So in customer experience, you want to figure out, what is it that I'm going to do that's going to differentiate? What do I believe I can differentiate my product, my service, my company on? And even if I'm working with two hotels that are right next door to each other, each one of them is very different. And the best way that they can tell how they're really differentiated is to read those scores of the excellent experience, like on TripAdvisor or on Yelp. What is it people are consistently telling them when they give them an excellent rating? And that could be very different than what's across the street. So while it's still connection of the employee at that top level, it could be the way they connect. If you go to a Ritz-Carlton, the way they connect at a Ritz-Carlton is very much different than a Spring Hill Suites, which is, a lower Marriott brand. But still that connection of the human being there is really what matters. So how do I uniquely connect at a Ritz-Carlton versus a Spring Hill Suites? And you can look at any company and do the same thing. And so that would be a very easy thing to do. Look at what your reviews are already telling you that you're doing really well, and find ways to do more of that.
To repeat the same behavior so that you can get the same results over and over.
Exactly. And that gets to the consistency you spoke about earlier.
That is true. Because, I think that's one thing that most businesses lack. Like, they'll have different departments, and different departments offer different services, clearly. But you'll go and have a great experience, for example, with let's say the sales department. But then you go to deal with accounting, who probably deals more with the vendors. But the experience there is horrible, and it's the same company. And I think at the end of the day, it's a sum total experience that the customer remembers. So it's every point of contact, the telephone, when you go on their social media channels, if you enter the parking lot and the security guard is rude to you, all of those help to form the customer's experience. So if you're getting it right in one area, but you're getting it wrong in 4 areas, you're not getting it right at all.
Absolutely. And, what's fascinating to me is that in all the clients I've worked with, one of the things that they've never done, none of them have ever had a written out ideal customer experience.
Really?
Yeah, no one's ever had that. And I find it fascinating. And I've worked with some pretty well-known companies. Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to say who they are, but
right.
They're well-known companies. They're winners in their industries. And yet they didn't have a written out idea of what that customer experience should be. They may have a process flow and a journey map, but they really hadn't identified, this is what we want our customer to be feeling at this moment in time. And the reason that is so important is because if you look at the end state, where you want your customer to be feeling, let's say when they walk out the door, then you can back into what were they feeling when they walked in the door, right? And you begin to look at, okay, they're at point A when they walk in the door, and I want them to be at point E when they walk out of the door. So I've got to move them through B, C, and D. Mm-hmm. And then you can figure out, okay, what do I need to do? And this is where I often look at products and services and really say, we've got it backwards most of the time. We say, let's create a product that has these features, and then we'll offer these benefits, with the product. And in truth, it says we should be saying, what is it that our customers are feeling? What do we want them to feel? And then we back into, if we want them to feel this way, what benefits would move them there? And then what features create those benefits? Mm-hmm. So you build it all backwards, and then you end up with an amazing product that people say, how did you do that? Well, it's because I started with the end in mind.
True. Yeah, that is a popular saying. And when you explain it like that, you really do get a real sense of what it means. Start with the end in mind.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel about my Apple products. I definitely think they started with the end in mind.
Yes, absolutely. It's funny because I'm on a Mac right now as we're doing this, and I used to be a PC guy.
Oh yeah,
I love my Mac. I still haven't converted to the iPhone, but I've got the iPhone, I've got the iPad, I've got everything else.
Yes, I am definitely a loyal customer of Apple. I mean, just to share a story with you, my sister traveled in May, and she went to a party and unfortunately went to the restroom, and she wanted to use the bathroom so badly she forgot her phone was in her back pocket, and oops, it fell into the toilet bowl. And she was devastated. I mean, if anybody's connected to their phone, it's her. Like she sleeps with her phone under her pillow. Her phone is like, like how people take their children near and dear to them. Mm-hmm. That's her phone to her. And Apple replaced her phone free of cost. Because again, going back to your connection, she was on the phone with this guy, and he asked her if she had Apple Care. She said no. We don't live in the U.S. We live in Jamaica. So even though she bought the phone in an Apple store 3 months earlier, so she bought the phone in February, and this incident happened in May. And the day that the incident happened, that's early in the morning when she was at the party, she was traveling back to Jamaica in the evening. So if she didn't get the phone replaced or find some way to have it repaired, she'd be in a serious problem. And he connected with the trauma that she was showing him on the telephone, because they weren't speaking face to face. This was over a phone call. Mm-hmm. And he put a case number in the system and told her when she goes to the store, they're going to replace her phone for free. And he told her to go to a specific store and to give them the case number and ensure that she gets there by 10 o'clock, because as the day progresses, she may not be able to get through. And she was able to do that, and she got her phone replaced. And that to me is an awesome experience. Like, she didn't really meet the requirements that the company would have had in terms of, get the Apple Care, and once you're paying the Apple Care money per month or per annum, you'll be able to get a free replacement. She didn't meet that requirement, but he was able to see the frustration and the pain that she was feeling from not having her phone.
Absolutely, and it's fascinating because I had a phone that actually got stolen from me, and Sprint is my carrier, and it's an Android phone, and this was probably 3 or 4 years ago. And it was late at night. I happened to be at a restaurant, and it was on the corner of the table. And I just happened to be talking to the people I was with, and I didn't notice someone walk by and literally picked it up and walked out the door.
Wow.
And so I went into this state of panic, and I used someone else's phone, and I tried to call Sprint, and the line was down. The line to report your phone stolen was down. It wasn't working. And then I tried to shut my phone off, using the app, and I couldn't get through to do that. It was one thing after another wasn't working. And I was very, very frustrated because they didn't understand that this was not just a phone. This is my connection to family. I was traveling on business. I'm away from my family 1,000 miles away.
Wow.
And, this is how my clients reach me. This is how I do business. This is how I check my emails. This, it's not a phone to me. This is like the connecting device in my life.
Right.
And it was, bank account information, everything else is in there, and it just disappeared. And I was very, very frustrated that actually because of that. And if you look at other experiences like that, I can point to banks as an example, where they say they're protecting the individual, and so they've got really strict fraud policies, and they cut off the debit card or the Visa card when you have a certain pattern of behavior. And so you go using your Visa card and they've cut you off. They've stopped the card. They've frozen it at the moment. So you call them and you try to get through. And there are many, many banks in the United States right now that it takes 45 minutes or more to get through to the fraud department.
Wow, that's a long time.
Exactly. And they say, well, we're protecting you. You're not protecting me. You're protecting yourself. I know my money is FDIC insured. I know that this Visa actually insures it as well. So anything that happens that's stolen is covered by Visa. You're protecting yourself. You're not protecting me. And so people are really revolting against that and saying, you know what, I'm not going to tolerate this behavior anymore. And if you look at millennials are willing to take more risk as long as they get the freedom to set up their account the way they want.
True. That's true. They're definitely changing the dynamics of how business is operated.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Great stuff, Tony. So could you share with us how you stay motivated every day?
That is a great question, too. Running multiple businesses, there's a lot of stuff going on. So one of the things I do every morning before I get out of bed in the morning, I do visualization and meditation. And the visualization is really geared toward what is it I'm grateful for and what is it I want to achieve today? What are my intentions for today? And a part of that is always focus on the abundance around me, because, we can get too easily caught up with, oh, I've got, 5 no's yesterday from prospects, or this happened or that happened. And instead just allowing the abundance to flow. And so really opening up to that. And it sounds very, woo or new agey, but the reality is the science, I'm a hard numbers guy. The science is out there that visualization and meditation, the right type, will actually allow your mind to be more creative, and you'll find more solutions. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I do in when I'm working with clients. If I come up against a problem, the data is not showing me what I think it should, I often go do visualization, meditation. Instead of getting frustrated, I know the signs when I'm starting to get the edge of that frustration. Mm-hmm. At that point, I go do visualization, meditation, go take a walk. I do something different, because the research shows that as soon as you get away from what you're doing, your mind opens up and you'll become more creative and you'll find a solution. It'll actually pop in without you having to look for it. So I do that quite a few times during the day, but I definitely start my day that way to get me motivated, to get me going forward.
Wow. So how long does your meditation and visualization take you in the morning? It's about 30 minutes?
I have a 20-minute exercise that I do. I will admit this morning I did a double dose of it because I had the number of things that was going on today, including being on here. So I wanted to be extra clear. So I did a double dose of it. They say that when you least have the time is when you should do even more of it.
Wow. Okay. Sounds good. So I hope you listeners are out there listening that Tony did a double dose this morning, and I think that's why we're getting so much value today. I feel like this is one of the better interviews that I've done in a long time. I've really learned a lot, and I've been in the area of customer experience for about 8 or 9 years now. But I am also a firm believer that learning is something that you can never stop doing, and every day is an opportunity for you to be a better version of yesterday. So, thank you for sharing this information.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the podcast here. I love it.
Okay, Tony, could you also share with us what is one online resource, tool, website, or app that you cannot live without in your life, either your personal life or your business?
Ooh, I only get to pick one. Okay, I'm going to go. It's tough. It's tough. I'm going to go with Evernote. Okay. I love Evernote because what I do with Evernote is I put every ideas, emails, anything I can, I put into Evernote. And what happened for me just a few months ago to prove the value of it is that I wanted to write a new blog post, and I kind of had a vague idea of what I wanted to write. And I was like, I think I've done something like this before. So I start, searching through Evernote. I just put in a couple keywords, and a fully written article that I had never published popped up. And it was there. And I looked at it and said, wait, did I write this or did I copy this from someone? Like, did I save it? And it was mine. And it was so good. I was like, this is really good. I'm glad I use Evernote. But it allowed me just to go ahead and pull something up, take something and put it online right away. So I use Evernote because I have so much information, so many ideas, when I'm working with clients. Or what if we study this or what if we study that? It'll come back at another project, another time. And I really get to use that again and leverage my resources again and again.
Very cool. All right. And Evernote allows you to input not just notes alone, it allows you for video and photos as well, right?
Absolutely. And I do actually, what I love about it too is that if you take a picture of a whiteboard, I'm a big whiteboard, I put a lot of stuff on whiteboards, and take a picture of that and it actually converts it to text for you.
Really? Oh, I didn't know I did that one. Cool.
Yep, it becomes all searchable. As long as your handwriting is reasonable, which, mine kind of is on the borderline there.
Mm-hmm. And which version of the Evernote do you use? Do you use the one you said you don't have an iPhone. You use the one in your computer?
I actually have one on my Android device, and I also have it on my computer, so I sync everything together.
Okay, awesome. So that is definitely a tool or an app that you would recommend for your clients, right?
Absolutely.
There's one question that I know wasn't a part of our podcast flow that I really wanted to ask you as we're on the topic of different apps and tools that you can use to improve yourself. I think over the years from my own research, I found that one of the reasons why customer experience tends to be probably poor in some organizations is because of poor leadership. Do you agree with that? And what are some things that you believe as a consultant, like let's say you're trying to get through to the prospect for them to understand that customer experience is actually directly linked to their bottom line, because a lot of business owners think that customer experience is a nice to have. It's it's a pretty frilly kind of stuff. I don't have time to spend energy on that. I'm going to invest my money in marketing and put up a new billboard on this road and do a new TV ad on this station, but they're not actually investing in their people and investing in, as you were explaining, understanding the needs of their customers and what an ideal experience with their company should feel like. Could you expound on that for us?
Yes, that is I love your questions. I really do. When I'm working with an executive who's just not buying it, and there's actually, I would say, more than half still do not buy into this. I think a lot of people are giving it lip service, but they don't really believe. And by that, I mean they're not putting the money where they need to. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing that I'll do in that conversation, well, not the first thing, as I realize that's where they are, I'll take them through and I'll say, you know what, let's look at it this way. I want you to think about a restaurant or a hotel. I just tend to use those because most people have had those experiences. I want you to take a restaurant or hotel that you went to for the first time, and it was such an amazing experience that when you left there, you decided you were going to come back and you brought friends or colleagues or business associates or whatever it may be. Do you have one of those experiences? Yeah, I have one of those. Okay. Now I want you to think about a hotel or restaurant experience you had that was the first time you went there. It was so bad that you have never gone back and you've told people, warned people to stay away. Like, well, yeah, of course I've had, this is what happened. I said, okay, right there is the example. You, a person who doesn't believe that customer experience has any financial value, should look at your own experience to see that you, in fact, are a customer and you're acting exactly as your own customers would. Mm. I did that in front of a conference of executives, about 150 executives a few years ago. And these were like analytical data scientist types. And I presented that to them. But before I started, I asked them a question: how many of you think you're logical? And at the end of that description, I said, now how many of you think you're logical, that you're making a decision off of one experience that's not statistically valid, is it? And the whole room just got silent because they realized customer experience is not about statistics. We can use statistics to measure, but it's not about statistics. It's about this particular experience in this moment in time. And that's why when you read my bio at the beginning, I really do focus a lot on the moment, because it's only this moment that we have at any given moment. This is all we have right now. And so therefore, in this moment contains the power to change our trajectory, whether it's a personal life or as a leader or as a business. We can't change it in the past. We can't change it in the future. We only have this moment right now. And so getting them to realize that they made a decision in a given moment because of what they had experienced. Their customers do the same thing. And if they want to affect their customer experience, it will affect their bottom line one way or the other. It's not if, it's happened today. Yeah, it's happening right now. And so you've got to decide, do I want to make more money or not? And that's a real good decision for them.
Yeah. Wow. Good stuff. I like that example. I'm going to borrow it if you don't mind.
Absolutely. The more people that use it, the more these leaders will understand.
Yeah, it's definitely a big challenge that I found. And as I said, I think they think it's just too much of a nice to have. And a lot of them I've even heard say to me in meetings, well, we're going to train the people and in another couple of months they're going to be gone. So why bother train them in the first place? Well, if you have that attitude, then why are you even in business?
Exactly. And you know what? There's a place for mediocre players. And that's fine if you want to be mediocre. And it's interesting. The more I've been in this space, the more I've become very emboldened to say these things. But I would even respond to them, if that's what you think, there's a place for mediocre players that want to play that way. But I don't work with companies that behave that way.
Right.
So, thank you very much. And I'll see. Because when you start walking away, then they begin to, what? They don't get talked to that way. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you need to, it's like any of us, we have a habit. They're in a habit of thinking. And they bought into this belief system. So if you shake them up by telling them something they don't normally hear, then they're suddenly, wait, come back here. Tell me what you meant by that. No one wants to be called mediocre. Mm-hmm. And then they start to listen. Now, you may not win that client over. You may not be able to. But at least you shake them in the moment that they start to think differently. Whether they continue down that path, that you don't know. But you at least have that obligation. I think we have an obligation to shake people up a little bit to say, hey, what's happening here? Are you going to be mediocre or not? And I have the reason I'm so passionate about this is that I faced a health condition when I was in corporate. That's actually part of the reason I left. And it was a life and death moment. I was literally at the moment of life and death.
Wow. And
I realized that every moment we have in life is a choice of whether we want to grow or we want to shrink back and become something smaller. And we don't get to redo any moments of our lives. They happen. And either we embrace this moment we're in now and we be the best we can in this moment, or we're not. And we cannot become great people and we cannot become a great society or a great world if we don't try to be great in this moment. I think customer experience, honestly, is the absolute opportunity for us to turn this world around in so many ways. Because when people have good experiences, just even the smile or a connection with a person behind a counter, at a clerk at a store, a barista at a coffee shop, or a person driving down the street next to you and you just smile and wave, you let them in traffic. If we were all a little bit more empathetic, it would change the world. Because what happens is when someone experiences an act of kindness, or another person sees an act of kindness, or a person does an act of kindness, any one of those three scenarios, they've proven that our health actually improves. They've proven our creativity goes up. So all of these things lead to a better world. And I just believe that there's such a ripple effect in just these moments we have with one another that we ought to embrace them every moment we have and just give our full self in that moment.
Wow. Wow. Even if I never believed when I created my vision for my company in 2007, I firmly believe now, based on what you just said, that it was the right vision. So my vision is very short and is very spicy. And it was actually based on a cartoon that I used to watch when I was a little girl called The Care Bears. Do you remember that cartoon?
I do remember that.
So it's very simple. It's my vision for my company is to create a more caring world. And, everything that you said a while ago in that wonderful explanation of why you think customer experience will make the world better is embodied in those, words that I put together. Because at the end of the day, I totally agree with everything that you've said. Like, if we have better experiences, our politics will improve, the quality of our experiences will improve, our children will get to see better experiences coming up, they'll become better adults, be better communicators, be better leaders. I mean, as you said, it's such a ripple effect that affects so many aspects of the society.
Absolutely. And I think the simplicity you have in that vision of yours is perfect, because the more simple it is, the easier anyone can understand. And it's like we can all grasp that and understand what that means for us.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So what are some books that have had the biggest impact on you?
Well, a book I am working on right now that I absolutely love, and I think for anyone in our industry, they ought to look at this book. It's called Misbehaving. And it's about behavioral economics. Twisting my tongue here. But it's called Misbehaving, and it's a great book by Thaler. I believe his name is Thaler. He is one of the leading behavioral economists, and so it's that link between psychology and economics. And he talks in there about many of the different cases where behavior of the human person is irrational. And it's fascinating to me because if we look at the challenges we face in business every single day, we look at customer experiences, really it's all about this behavioral economics and how irrational people are. But you can begin to understand and predict what they're going to do if you present them with certain scenarios. So I love that book. I would say, I think the book that really, really affected my life is Jack Canfield's Success Principles.
Oh, nice. I like that one.
That was the first self-improvement book I read right around the time that I was told I was taking over customer experience for the hotel company back in 2007. Mm-hmm. And it was my first kind of step into the whole world of psychology and understanding how people think and feel and behave.
Yeah, how to get from where you are to where you want to be.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Awesome. Okay, so just to reiterate the books that Tony explained to us that have really had a great impact on him. Misbehavior, The Making of Behavioral Economics, and that's by Richard H. Thaler, Thaler. And it's available on Amazon in Kindle, hardcover, paperback, and Audible. And The Success Principles, How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be by Jack Canfield. And that one's also available on Amazon in all the mediums that I just listed before. Okay, great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So tell us, Tony, as we, come to a close of our interview, what is the one thing in your life that you're working on right now that you are really excited about? Something that you're either working on to develop yourself or your people?
I would say that has to be the project we're working right now is called Beast Mode Live. And I'm working with one of the leading mental performance coaches in professional athletics. He's worked with Olympians and that. And we're taking the principles that he has taught for years to these professional athletes, and we're bringing it into corporate life. And we're actually using it. Our team uses it here in the company. And we're also now in an effort to bring it to the military, the entire U.S. military, on a global scale. And we're doing that where it's funded not by the federal government, not by the politicians and that, but we're finding corporate sponsors so that we can help the military, because we're really passionate about this, because we find that 35 to 40% of the military, once they've completed their service, end up leaving the service and they don't have a job. And many of them are homeless. And so we're helping come to the table with the sponsorship dollars and everything else required so that we can touch, over the next several years, we want to be able to touch every member of the military so that when they are in the service, they're at a higher level of performance. And when they leave the service, they have control of their mind, they have control of their emotions, and they can really go out there and do something great because they've done such great service already. Let's keep that progress. Most of them have never had a job outside of the military because they went in right out of high school or right out of college, and so they don't understand how their skill sets. They're some of the most highly trained people we have in the world, and yet they don't understand how those skill sets translate into corporate life, and we want to really help them with that. So that's kind of a passion project of ours. We're putting a lot of time and energy in that because we've been through it. We believe in it. As you can hear through this whole interview, I really believe that mindset is where everything starts at, because I know that's how I changed my life.
Wow, that's awesome. So I guess you'll be providing information that if the listeners want to follow that journey or support your initiatives, you're going to be sharing that on social media when it's all launched and stuff?
Absolutely. We've got a couple things that will be coming out over the next 60 days, and they can be watching for that.
Great. That sounds awesome. That really sounds like a passion project. I commend you for doing that, and I wish you all the very best success with it. And I think it's awesome. It's very interesting that you say that these persons don't understand how their skills translate into corporate. But if you ask me, they may be more successful based on the skills that they've developed in the corporate world than the existing persons we have running the world now, in my opinion, because the military teaches you, it gives you a lot of mental discipline, and that's one of the things that we lack in the society globally. I think just people being disciplined, having better time management skills, understanding when it, and the military is very good at getting them into that mindset from early. They learn how to do drills, just and this is just from off of observation or just watching TV. And I just think that some of those skills would be excellent in the corporate world, because it would definitely bring a different flow or a different flavor of operation that would actually set you apart from your competitors.
I absolutely agree with that. And the people that I've met in this process of all the way from the Pentagon down to the individual bases and some of the soldiers that have been injured, in their service, it's fascinating to me, and I've been intrigued at how intelligent they are. I mean, they haven't had a formal education necessarily like you or I may have had. They didn't have the opportunity to necessarily go to college, but they're so intelligent, so capable, so understanding, and some of the most empathetic people I've ever met. And they've got this hardened outside, this hardened exterior, but yet inside they really care about other people, and they care deeply. Yeah. And that is really moved me. And there was we spoke, my partner and I spoke at an event for one of the bases in New York a couple months ago, and there was one soldier there, I believe he was a sergeant, that really stood out to me, and we were doing the beast mode training, as we launched this, and he talked about an experience that he had, how he had just graduated. I think the weekend before, he had just graduated, and he'd been taking courses since 2006 online between everything he was doing, because the military is not a 9-to-5 job like we might have. I know as a small business owner, we don't have that. But, the military is 24/7, 365 unless they're on leave. And this gentleman had persisted in getting his bachelor's degree from 2006. That's 10 years working on his degree. And he finally graduated. And I had to, I had him stand up, and I really pointed and said, this is what makes a difference, is how many people do we know that actually would do this, would in addition to their job, this type of passion and enthusiasm for growing and for learning. You don't see that often in the corporate world. We're all capable of it, but we don't see that often in the corporate world. And I think that that's why part of the reason we're so passionate about helping them is because we know that they've got the skills. We know that they can bring something to the table. And in fact, with them being in the corporate world, they would help us all be better, because we'd have to up our game as well.
True.
Because they're challenging us.
True. Very true. So it would be a great opportunity for a two-way learning experience to happen.
Absolutely.
Okay, Tony, can you tell our listeners where they can find you online if they want to connect with you further?
Yes. My website is www.tonybodoh.com. That's TonyBodoh.com. And my blog is there. You can see a lot of information about me, videos and things like that. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, it's just Tony Bodoh. Search for that on LinkedIn. I should be the only one out there. And on Twitter, it's at Tony Bodoh.
Awesome. Okay, so before we come to a final close, I always like to ask our guests, what is a quote or a saying that they like to go back to when it is that they're faced with, some struggle or some challenge? It kind of helps to recenter them and get them refocused on where they're going and what they're about.
Well, there's one that I've been using lately, and it's actually from a mentor of mine. And she wrote me an email when I wasn't seeing the results I wanted to see in a particular area of my life. And so I go back to this quote, and it sits on my desk here every day. She said, "If the thinking and actions you've been doing produced what you were in love with, I'd say keep at it. But clearly it's time to wire a new set of thoughts and then grow them through repetition into new and more expansive results."
Nice. Very cool. I don't remember all of that to repeat it, so if you don't mind, could you repeat it one more time for our guests?
Absolutely. If the thinking and actions you've been producing were what I'm sorry, let me start that over. If the thinking and actions you've been doing produced what you were in love with, I'd say keep at it. But clearly it's time to wire a new set of thoughts and then grow them through repetition into new and more expansive results.
Very nice. Very nice. So when we have the show notes done for this podcast, those of you that are listening, you can actually access that saying in the show notes. So be sure to look out for that if it is that you're not going to be able to remember that entire saying. But it's really a good one, and it's definitely one that I think maybe you guys should think about printing out and putting on your desk as well, or maybe creating a desktop wallpaper that you'd have it there as, in an area that you're going to see it all the time. Okay, so again, thank you so much, Tony, for taking the time to sit here with us this morning and share with us a wealth of knowledge about your experiences, the things that you've done through your life, your vision and passion for customer experience, how you believe it translates not just into businesses, but it's a lifestyle and it's something that translates into your personal life as well. And the fact that you really understand that human connection, that level of kindness can actually help to create a better world and a better society. It was my pleasure, my honor to have interviewed you. I feel overwhelmed with joy from all the information that you've shared with us today. And I can only wish you all the very best, because I know based on your heart and the things that I've heard you say, only success and abundance will follow you.
Thank you very much, Unique. It has been a great pleasure to be here and to be with your audience today. And thank you for asking such good questions, because you allowed me to shine in this moment. I wouldn't have been able to do it without you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, guys, so I just wanted to remind you that you can follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX. And for those of you that would like to join our private Facebook group, it's Navigating the Customer Experience Community. Feel free to hop on over to Facebook and request to join our group so that we can all be a part of a wonderful community that's helping to change the world and make things better. And we'll see you next time on Navigating the Customer Experience. I'm Yannick Grant. We really appreciate your support of this podcast. Are you ready to grow your business even more, or improve your leadership skills, or train your team members in the art of customer service? Give us a call at 305-848-0815 or visit our website at www.yannickgrant.com. That's YANIQUEGRANT.com. Remember, 305-848-0815 or visit our website at yannickgrant.com. Our new online course, Mastering Customer Experience and Increasing Your Revenue, is now available. The link for this will be on the show notes of this episode on our website. 50% off for everyone that enrolls today until Wednesday, September 14, 2016. The first 2 modules are free, so hop on over, have a look, and take the step to increase your revenue.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.